Thanks for watching Coral Gables Television. Today on Coral Gables Now, our lush tree canopy is about to look even better. After an extensive study, the city will soon embark on a major tree planting program. Did you know the original Raggedy Ann and Andy dolls are located at the Coral Gables Branch Library? There's a lot more than books at the library, like plays, yoga, and video games. A longtime resident and nationally recognized women's rights advocate is honored. Roxy Bolton couldn't travel to Washington, D.C. to receive the prestigious award, so a congresswoman brought it right to her. Plus, you can experience art everywhere in Coral Gables. It's in galleries, even on the side of the road. A new public art project was recently completed. We'll tell you where to find this sculpture. There's much more to talk about. Coral Gables Now starts right now. Welcome to Coral Gables Now. I'm Belkis Perez. The city's tree canopy is like no other in South Florida. It's one of the features that makes this city so unique. Well, after an extensive evaluation of the city's street trees, more trees may be coming to your neighborhood. It's all part of the city's tree succession plan, and here to explain it to us is Aida Curtis of Curtis and Rogers Design Studio. It's a landscape architecture firm that's been doing business in Coral Gables for a very long time. Thank you so much for being here, Aida.
Thank you, Belkis, for having me.
So how long have you been in business?
We've had our office for about 25 years.
Wow. So a lot of extensive work here in Coral Gables as well.
Yes, we've done a lot of work in Coral Gables and a lot of the other municipalities here in South Florida.
So you were hired, the city hired you as a consultant to do this tree succession plan.
Yes.
Tell me about the goal of the tree succession plan.
As you very well explained and very well know, the city of Coral Gables is known for its canopy and its lush green vegetation. And so the city wanted to ensure that this canopy was going to continue over time. So they hired us to do a tree succession plan. And what a tree succession plan is, that you look at the entire canopy of the city and you evaluate the trees that are doing good, those that have aged, those that are missing, and in fact then start to recommend replacement of those trees and substitutions of certain species that haven't done well. So we did that for all the residential areas of the city.
So if there were residents, you know, that weren't happy with, you know, let's say they had coconut palms and they wanted to switch it over, there was though a requirement that a certain amount of trees had to be missing or something. You couldn't just go in and replace all that.
Yes. Well,
tree.
what we did is that we evaluated all of the streets that has coconuts, and the coconut issue has been a bit of a controversy because there's a lot of the citizens who wanted their streets to have the canopy trees, the oak trees or the mahogany trees, which provide a lot of canopy. However, historically, those trees have been coconuts, and we were not arbitrarily looking to change the theme of the streets. However, we felt that if there was a majority or a significant amount of trees that were not doing good, and in the case of the coconuts, we established that as a 30%. So if 30% of the palms of that street or more were not doing good, or were missing, or were thriving, then we said, okay, that almost counts as we could start again. We could look at a replacement of species, and that's where we then we looked at the streets that fell into that category, those that exceeded the 30% or more. We then met with the citizens and then discussed with them whether they preferred to change the theme to a canopy tree or leave it as a coconut. And that's when we decided if it was appropriate to change to a canopy tree.
And now, moving forward, what the commission has already approved this. Moving forward, what's the first thing that's going to be done? Is there a certain area, or is it replacing a certain number of trees? What comes down?
So what we did right now is that we our plan after the evaluation of the species, the analysis that we did, we found that there were about 65 trees that were in critical condition, meaning they needed to come down immediately because they posed a threat to the health, safety, and welfare. Any storm or anything could bring them down. So those need to be removed immediately, and they need to be replaced. There, we also found out that there were about 120 that were dead, or there were stumps, or had been seriously. So those also will be replaced. And then, in addition to that, we found out that there was a lot of holes. There were trees that were missing that maybe have been there at some point in time, and they're no longer there. Ultimately, entirely, the city is replacing, is putting in about 3,000 new trees throughout the entire city. So the process right now is we have identified which streets are going to take those trees. We have identified how many of each individual species is to amount to the total 3,000. We will be putting out the project out to bid. We will be selecting a contractor who will then begin the process of planting these new trees in the city.
All right, and lastly, this plan is only as good as the maintenance that you have on it, the sustainability of it. So give us a little bit of information on that.
Well, that was part of initially about the evaluation also, because we wanted to make sure that any tree that was specified for the right-of-way was going to be able to thrive through time and do well in our climatic environment. That was the basics of selecting the specific species for it goes to the street. In addition, the most critical time of a tree is the initial period from the time that you plant the tree to the time that it really gets established. It goes off on its own, a little bit like weaning a child, planting it and weaning it. So we're requiring the contractor who plants these trees to take care of those trees for the initial first year, which is the establishment period, and essentially take care of it by watering, fertilizing, pruning it, and essentially weaning it so that it then takes off on its own. And so that's going to be required of the contractor, and then beyond that, then the trees will have another year guarantee to establish, to make sure that they're established properly and then able to go on their own.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Aida. Great information for those residents who maybe weren't able to attend the meetings or really had some questions. You definitely hit all the subjects. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much, Belkis.
So if you want more information on the tree succession plan, you can call the Public Service Division. That number is 305-460-5130. We'll be right back with more of Coral Gables Now.
Fact: Americans consume too much sodium. Sodium raises blood pressure and puts you at risk for heart disease or stroke. What's too much? Most people consume more than 3,400 milligrams a day, but less than 2,300 is recommended. Even less for others. A lot of sodium is hidden in processed foods, not the salt shaker. A regular sandwich can have over 1,500 milligrams of sodium. Guess what? Add a can of soup and you're over the limit. Here's what you can do. Buy fresh, frozen, or no salt added canned vegetables and eat more fruit. Use fresh poultry, fish, and other lean meats. Use low or reduced sodium items and limit sauces and mixes. Choose wisely when eating out. Restaurant food can be high in sodium. Ask for low sodium options. Most importantly, learn to read nutrition facts labels. Less sodium, better health.
Welcome back. Have you been to the Coral Gables Library lately? Well, you'd find much more than books at the local branch. What exactly? For that, we've brought in Carmen Centeno from the Miami-Dade Public Library System. Thank you so much, Carmen, for being here.
Thank you, Belkis. Thank you for inviting me.
So give us a little bit, let's start off by a little bit of a background on the library. When did it open its doors for the first time?
Okay, well, the Coral Gables Library was founded by the Coral Gables Women's Club back in 1927.
Mm-hmm. So very early on, because the city was founded in 1925.
That's right, and then thanks to the efforts of the city founder George Merrick and the Coral Gables Women's Club and the city of Coral Gables, they all helped for the library project to to be born.
And was it always there at that location?
No, some of your viewers may be, may be surprised to learn that the first library's location was at the cathedral room at the Douglas entrance.
That's very cool information.
Yeah.
So it wasn't always at Segovia, where it is right now.
Right, and then it moved to the location at 1001 East Ponce de Leon, and that's at where the Coral Gables Women's Club presently is, and it was there for more than 30 years.
Oh, wow.
After that, finally in 1967, the library finally moved to its dedicated facility at the 3443 Segovia Street.
Wow. And when it first started, tell me about the books. How many books were there at that time? I'm sure it was interesting.
Yes, we had about 300 books, approximately 300
Wow.
books. That's how many books we opened with.
And how about now?
Now we have approximately 131,000 books at the Coral Gables Library.
Interesting. You know what I find interesting about that is that even early on, education, being informed, literature was very important in the founding of the city. That they wanted to have a library here in Coral Gables. So that was very interesting. So any other cool things that you can tell us about the library? You know, just from going in there, sometimes you go and you're focused on what you want and you don't see everything else that's around.
Right. Well, the library offers wide variety of activities and events that you can do. We have free Wi-Fi, we have books, DVDs, and we now even have video games. So we have a lot of great things. But perhaps some of your viewers may not be aware that we also have the original Raggedy Ann and Andy dolls at the Coral Gables Library. And the dolls were donated in 1953 by Mrs. Gruhl. And you can find those by just visiting the children's department.
It's in the children's section.
Yeah, the children's section.
I've noticed that there's a growing number of activities at the library. It's not just a place where you can go for a book club anymore. There's a lot of different activities. What was the reason behind that, and how did that get started?
Well, we're very lucky that we have wonderful supporters of the library. Our sponsors, they're the ones who always help us so that we can book tremendous, wonderful programs. And we are, always paying attention to see what our customers need. And we have weekly teen programs for children and also for adults. So we're always paying attention to the needs of our customers and asking them, what would you like to see at the library?
So taking that into consideration, what are some of the more popular events there, and give us a little bit of a description of them.
Well, very popular at the Coral Gables Library, we have the toddler story times. The baby and toddler story times is incredible how many parents walk in and they want their babies to be exposed to literacy. And so those are very popular. We have also yoga for adults. That's very popular on Saturdays at 10:30 in the morning.
So you would have never thought yoga at the library.
Right.
So that's a perfect example. Tell me about some of the upcoming events, things that residents can look forward to.
Well, we have the summer reading program. We want everyone to read at the library at home, and this program includes everyone from babies all the way up to adults. So it's a program for children, teens, and adults. And to participate is very simple, Belkis. All you need to do is read a minimum of 2 hours a week, and you can be entered to participate in the grand prizes.
Oh, great.
So that's what's coming up. The program is currently on, and it's July 19th, and we have wonderful prizes.
And what other events can we look forward to?
We have a magician coming up at the library, at the Coral Gables Library. It's going to be Saturday, July 19th. We have much more. And let me check my notes here. We have Creepy Collie Adventures. That's going to be Saturday, July 12th.
What's that about?
And that's an opportunity for children to learn a little bit about science, to explore the body parts of insects. We know children love anything to do with animals and insects. And so they're going to learn all about the food chain.
Okay.
And so it should be great.
All
Very
right.
educational. We also have storytellers coming to the library. That's going to be on Saturday, July 19th. And they'll be able to listen to a storyteller tell great stories. And also,
Okay. Great. And Carmen, could you give us the hours of operation?
Yes, the library is open on Mondays, on Thursdays, Fridays, and Saturdays from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. And Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 1 p.m. to 9 p.m.
And thank you, Carmen, for being here and for giving us all that great information.
Thank you, Belkis.
And for more information on all of the activities that we discussed here and more, you can visit the Coral Gables Branch Library. The website for that is www.mdpls.org and click on Coral Gables from the Find a Branch tab. We'll be right back with more of Coral Gables Now.
Which of the angles on the board are the one from the quiz on Friday? Jaden?
Research shows more and more 12 to 15-year-olds have arteries similar to that of a 45-year-old. But it doesn't have to be that way. Don't let your children grow up too fast. Encourage them to act their age through regular exercise and healthy eating.
Coral Gables resident Roxy Bolton touched the lives of many people in her fight for equal rights for women. As Rodolfo Roman explains, in gratitude, she is being honored with a national award.
Coral Gables women's pioneer Roxy O'Neill Bolton has been awarded several awards, but not like the one she recently received. Bolton was the recipient of the 2014 National Women's History Project Award. It is an honor received by La Creme de la Creme.
There was segregation here in Dade County, not just in terms of race, but in terms of gender. And the young people today, they think of that and they think that never happened, that couldn't have happened. But we got rid of that discrimination thanks to leaders and pioneers like Roxy Bolton.
The 88-year-old Bolton ironically celebrated her birthday the same day at the Women's Park near Sweetwater, which she helped create. She suffered a stroke which has enabled her from speaking, but her son, D. Baron Buddy Bolton, said his mother is proud of the award.
So proud. I'm so honored to be her son, so inspired by her, and so thankful for her name and her legacy and all the work she's done.
Many officials of Coral Gables were in store for the event as the crowd joined in to sing happy birthday for the living historical figure. Ross Lanin says Bolton has played a major role in her life.
Well, I have known Roxy for a long time, and she's always inspired me. She's inspired now a younger generation of women leaders, and the younger people, they don't know how tough it was in the beginning when Roxy was talking about treating rape as a crime. Today's young people would think, of course it's a crime. Well, then it was considered not an important crime, and a family matter, and domestic violence was not considered a crime.
She has been the leader in several historical changes, like the founding of the nation's first rape treatment center at Jackson Memorial Hospital, and encouraged President Richard Nixon to issue a proclamation honoring Women's Equality Day and more. Her son says although she celebrated 88 years of her life, there's still a lot more of Roxy left.
She's going to keep fighting. She's a fighter. And I think that's what gives her and has given her the 88 years is the fight.
For Coral Gables Now, Rodolfo Roman.
All right, thanks, Rodolfo. Take a virtual tour back at how Coral Gables started through an interactive website. Mike Biana has that story and others on City News.
You don't have to pick up a book to learn about the history behind one of the city's beautiful buildings. It's now all just a click away. Coral Gables, in collaboration with Florida International University, has launched a virtual historic city. It's an interactive web experience that showcases the city's history as early as 1906. The project, sponsored by the city clerk's office, features a digital collection of cultural artifacts, architectural drawings, aerial photographs, and more. There is also a virtual walking tour of the city, complete with audio narration and 3D simulations showing the facade of historic buildings. To try it out for yourself, visit maps.fiu.edu/CGM. In a city as beautiful as Coral Gables, art isn't confined to galleries and museums. Just drive by the corner of Lejeune Road and Ponce de Leon Boulevard to see the latest public art to be installed in the city. The domed sculpture with a metal rose is located in the courtyard of Gables Ponce, the new mixed-use development. The piece was commissioned under the Art in Public Places program, which incorporates art into major new developments. The design was inspired by the Labyrinth, of the Gothic cathedrals of Europe. That will do it for City News. I'm Mike Biana.
All right, thank you, Mike. We'll be right back with more of Coral Gables Now.
They fought for social change. They fought against tyrants. They fought for human rights. Yet behind these achievements are individuals who waged a more personal war. They fought the struggle against mental illness, and they won.
Welcome back. A Coral Gables police officer helped to come up with a concept that may help people with autism have a more positive interaction with law enforcement. It's an ID card that can even show their emotional state at that time. And for more information on this project, we brought in Lieutenant Bart Barta of the Coral Gables Police Department. Thank you so much, Lieutenant, for being here.
Thank you for having me.
So, as an officer, you're trained to look for specific behavior and actions of the subject that you're about to confront, or just, you know, in your everyday activities. But there's certain behavior in a person with autism that could be misinterpreted.
That's correct.
Could you give us some examples of that?
Sure. Because of the disability, certain individuals with autism will display what a lot of people would consider to be unusual behaviors. And these behaviors oftentimes are used in order to regulate their own behaviors. Or sometimes they engage in something called self-stimulating behavior. And there's a lot of theory and reasons behind this, but officers coming in contact with a person with autism may see this behavior. It could be hand flapping, it could be pacing back and forth or spinning in circles. And if an officer is not aware that this person has autism, they might misinterpret this behavior as, one, maybe the person is under the influence of some type of controlled substance, or maybe this person is suffering from mental illness, when in fact this person doesn't have mental illness issues and is not under the influence of any controlled substance. They simply have a disability. It's called autism spectrum disorder, and it's manifesting itself through their behaviors.
So, so what you're saying basically is that with the concept of this ID card, you know, it could be a great tool to help that officer or that other law enforcement individual, whoever it is, understand what's going on.
Absolutely.
When that person can't really communicate it as well.
That's correct. See, for some people with autism spectrum disorder, they have not only some behavior issues that can sometimes be misinterpreted, but there's communication issues. A lot of people with autism spectrum disorder have limited communication abilities. A number of individuals have no verbal skills or very limited verbal skills. And if an officer were to encounter somebody like this, they may misinterpret this person's lack of ability to communicate with them as being resistant or defiant, when in fact they're not being resistant or being defiant. They just have this disability. So our hope is that if we come up with a card that we create for individuals with autism, if in fact they do encounter a police officer or a first responder, could be a fire rescue person who's been called to the scene to administer medical aid, and this person maybe is experiencing a tremendous amount of anxiety, or maybe they're experiencing some sensory issues that's causing them to try to regulate themselves. The person with autism could self-disclose their disability by presenting the officer or the first responder with this card. And the card is specifically designed for each individual. It's unique to the person, and will describe some of the challenges that this person may have. And then secondly, there's information on the back of the card for an emergency contact. So in the event the officer needed to reach out to a caregiver, a guardian, or a family member, that information too could be included on the back of the card and could also help and enable the officer.
So one of the things that I found when you showed me this beforehand I thought was great is, you know, as you just mentioned, not only does it tell you what the disabilities are specifically to this person. I may have difficulty making eye contact, which might be some other misinterpretation on the part of the fire rescue or the police officer. But it could also give that first responder some information on how to help the person cooperate better, clearly identify yourself. You know, the first responder could also, you know, take note of avoid touching me or restraining me if possible. So those are great tips. One of the best ones that I saw is this little tab in which it's really, it can tell that first responder exactly how that person is feeling, what mood, what environment he's in. You've got relaxed, calm, nervous, and tense, and all they have to do is press their thumb on it.
Right. If you hold your finger or your thumb over this this tab for 30 seconds or more, what'll end up happening is that it'll begin to change colors. And I don't know if you can see it or not here on the camera, but I'm holding my thumb right there, and if I take off my finger, well, I'm pretty tense right now because it's actually still pretty black or dark. But earlier, before we were filming and I was sitting here, I had my thumb here and I was holding it there for about 30 seconds, and I was actually between this blue and this green area, between relaxed and calm. So it's pretty accurate. It's a pretty accurate depiction. So it does present the officer or the first responder with an idea on the level of anxiety that person may be experiencing there with autism. Because the idea is if you can reduce the anxiety in the person, then of course you're going to facilitate the communication process a lot better.
And you know what I think is great is that this is great for the first responder to have, but it's also something good for the person with autism to regulate themselves and see and understand, okay, well, I'm feeling tense right now.
That's a great point, and that's true. And in creating that was one of the things also that we thought there are strategies that individuals with autism can try to utilize to help. There's breathing techniques and other things to help relax themselves and help them to become more calm. And this is another tool that they have to help them sort of self-assess where they are.
Okay, and you know, that ID card is something that I'm sure you had other people collaborating with. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I was actually approached by Disability Independence Group. It's a disability a group here that's based in Miami about possibly collaborating with this project and with the card. And also we collaborated with the University of Miami Centers for Autism and Related Disabilities. So all three of the Coral Gables Police Department, CARD, and Disability Independence Group, we all got together and we collaborated and we came up with this idea about the card and also about the idea of creating training for the individuals who have autism spectrum disorder and how to utilize the card if they're encountered by a law enforcement or first responder. And then the other component of the training would be to provide the training for the police officers or the first responders and what they can expect if they were to encounter someone and they were to be presented this card.
Okay. This is something that the training, this is in its infancy stage. Training hasn't happened yet for these police officers because this card is only as good as you know, the police officer needs to look for that card or understand that there's a possibility that they could have that.
Well, there is, but that's why the training for the individuals with autism who are requesting to receive the card, that they receive the training first and foremost, because then they need to know when and how to self-disclose their disability. There may be times when people with autism don't want to necessarily disclose their disability to someone, but then there are other times and situations where it's advantageous to disclose their disability and hopefully minimize any misunderstanding. So that's why we want to create the training component first for the individual who has autism spectrum disorder and show them and teach them how to properly use the card.
Why is it that a Disability Independence Group sought you out specifically?
Well, I had done a lot of training with law enforcement for about the last 6 years on how to have better interactions with individuals with autism, how to have the most successful interactions possible. I've been doing that for about the last 6 years through the CIT program, through the 11th Circuit Court's Mental Health Project. I've been doing that training now for about 6 or 7 years, trained well over 2,000 officers in how to have better interactions with individuals with disabilities, and particularly autism. They are aware of that. They reached out to me. I have a child that has autism. I'm very involved in the autism community here in South Florida, and they just figured that I would be a good resource and a good tool.
What's your fear?
My biggest fear is, one, a lack of understanding, a lack of knowledge from first responders, from police, from fire and paramedics. I think that if individuals, particularly first responders, don't have the training or the knowledge, they're going to misinterpret the behaviors or the actions of individuals with autism. And unfortunately, serious things could happen or result because of that. And so that's my goal, is to try to minimize and reduce that misunderstanding and create more awareness for first responders.
Lieutenant Barta, thank you so much for taking this project to heart.
Thank you.
All right, and if you want more information on how to get an ID card, you want to order one, it is free. You can go on the website www.justdigit.org, and then there's going to be a tab at the top that says Wallet Card. You click on it, and an application like this will come out. You fill it out, and someone will either contact you or get you that card. Again, it's free, and we encourage you to do so. And that does it for this edition of Coral Gables Now. Thanks for watching Coral Gables Television. Make sure to watch us and like us on youtube.com/Coral Gables TV. You can also tune in to Comcast Channel 77 or on UVerse Channel 99. Just select City of Coral Gables from the menu. We'll see you next month.